Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome to our circular economy hackathon. These are all the webinars for the innovation sprints that's about to happen as we are building up, obviously, to the kicking off of the hackathon that's about to happen today at 5 p.m. all the way to Sunday, the 1st of December, all the way to the 3rd of December. I'd like to welcome all of you that are tuning in on our different social media platforms. Please do make sure that you guys are following us on our social media platforms. You can catch us on Facebook at Invelisi Entrepreneurs. We're also on Instagram at invelisi.africa. You can also catch us on X at Invelisi, and we're also on LinkedIn at Invelisi Entrepreneurs. Now, this is all part of the Invelisi or the Circular Economy Hackathon, hashtag CEHack 2023, and also hashtag Circular Innovators. Now, the Circular Economy Hackathon is an immersive and collaborative event that is aimed at harnessing the collective opportunity and as well as creativity of participants to addressing pressing challenges in the sustainable resource management. Now, teams will converge to ideate and develop innovative solutions that promote circularity, waste reduction, and also a responsible use for resources within diverse industries. Now, from reimagining products lifecycle to devising systems for repurposing and recycling materials, the hackathon encourages interdisciplinary collaboration, inviting entrepreneurs, designers, engineers, and sustainability enthusiasts to co-create a transformative initiative that aligns with the principles of a circular economy. Now, through this dynamic event, participants will not only showcase their problem-solving skills, but also contribute to a more sustainable and resilient future. Now, of course, the theme for this year's hackathon is Pathways to Circular Futures. Now, at the Circular Economy Hackathon, there will be a specialized track that challenges participants to envision and prototype innovative strategies leading to a more sustainable circular futures. Now, this segment of the hackathon specializes in development of a comprehensive approach and systematic solutions across various industries, encouraging participants to think beyond individual products or processes. Whether exploring circular design principles, waste reduction strategies, or advocating for policy changes, the goal is to foster a holistic understanding of how diverse pathways can converge to shape a circular economy. Now, participants will have the opportunity to collaborate, to ideate, and also to showcase the ideas that pave the way to the future, where resources are optimized and waste is minimized. Now, industries operate in harmony with the principles of sustainability and circularity. Now, through this track, the Circular Economy Hackathon aims to inspire actionable insights and contribute to a broader and a global transition towards a circular and regenerative practices. And of course, today we're going to be having a masterclass session. And I'm joined by Josea Medina, who is a digital innovation specialist, and is about to speak about the impact and scaling for social entrepreneurs. Mr. Josea Medina, how are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you so much, Carabo. Very excited to be here. I'm grateful to be able to share a little bit.
Yes, good to have you, sir. First and foremost, thank you so much for being part of this beautiful platform. Let's just really, before we get into it, let's speak about the work that you do. What exactly do you do, sir?
So I am part of I run the operations of Digital X. We are a catalog of solutions that we are aiming to link with the work of governments. We have seen that social entrepreneurs and people ideating amazing solutions to try to solve one of the biggest some of the biggest challenges in the world. One way of scaling is through setting them up and helping them work along with governments throughout the world. So we're doing a very interesting job linking such solutions. I'll give you a quick example where we have been working with an African, East African country trying to set up the collaboration between a company that's doing predictive AI with satellite imagery that can help ministries of health have a clearer blueprint on where to larvicide in order to stop the growth of mosquitoes, so that can actually influence the malaria transmission rates. You can get the malaria transmission rate down. So we're working on getting these very innovative solutions that can be linked to governments, and this is part of the job I do at UNDP.
All right, it's amazing, obviously, to have you part of this platform. Obviously, now you're going to be really just enlightening us on looking at how to impact and scale, obviously our businesses. But before we get into that, Mr. Josea Medina, I want to ask you, what does it mean to you when you hear about a 30 days business festival? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear about a 30 days business festival?
It comes to mind community building, It comes to mind uh, challenges, getting something
Yeah.
done in 30 days. It comes to mind music. I don't know if there's
Mm.
music, but 30-day
Yeah,
festival, it comes to me that there has to be a lot of music involved. That's what comes to mind.
that is beautiful, sir. Obviously, I think community is the most powerful statement because you just look at the network and opportunities that we have. Looking at how powerful it is when we all come together and share and look at the opportunities that lie within the market and also the challenges that we can one face. But without any further ado, sir, the platform is yours, and obviously you'll be taking us to a masterclass. Enjoy, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, sir.
Well, thank you, everyone. I want to share real quick who am I. My name is well, as Carabo had already mentioned, I'm Jose. I come from the social business acceleration space. I've been practically working with social entrepreneurs my whole life. People like yourselves that are trying since the beginning to ideate solutions that are around solving big problems like health, and in this case, trying to ideate problems around the circular economy. After doing that, I joined UNDP, and it's very exciting for me to being able now to work along with social entrepreneurs like yourselves to try to get them to work along with governments throughout the world. Now, one thing I've encountered throughout my whole life as someone that has become an ecosystem builder for entrepreneurs, particularly in Latin America, has to do with the fact that there is always a tension between the design of a company for social impact versus scale, right? So I've seen in a lot of the in a lot of the talks we've had with entrepreneurs that they had always this question about either we scale massively a product, a service, but that might sacrifice part of the social deep impact. And I have also encountered organizations that decide to have a very controlled, in-depth impact that can limit their scale. So hopefully what I can speak to you in the next 20 minutes or so will be how I've been thinking, along with the organization I co-founded with my co-founder a couple of years ago, around 10 years ago, we've been really thinking on how to ideate a framework that can help social entrepreneurs decide which is it they want to prioritize. If they want to prioritize either a deep impact rather than a shallow impact with a higher scale. So to take you a little bit on this, I first want to talk to about some of the theories out there, and some of you might be or might not be familiar with these people here. Mohammed Yunus is what we call him the father of microfinance, but he ideated the concept of a social business. A social business, it's a purpose-driven organization. First, it has a non-loss, non-dividend policy, meaning that everything that is built into the everything, all the revenue is reinvested in the business. So there's not a profit, while at the same time you are trying to become a business that can grow as much as possible. Um, Another theory about social impact comes from a mentor of our program called Paul Pollack. And Paul Pollack talked about ruthless affordability. For him, to solve big challenges in the world, we need to create markets. And we have to be ruthless affordable, meaning that if there is a market of people willing to pay $1 for your product, you need to make a profit of 50 cents. How do you market it in a way that you can really get to that market and have this ruthless affordability on it? No, he aims for using private capital to design solutions, etc. There's a third way, which is sometimes um, led by the Skull Foundation, which talks about system equilibrium, right? And what they say in the Skull Foundation is that when we're thinking about designing social or environmental solutions, we need to take a step back and understand the whole system, right? There is usually unjust inequilibrium on the systems where social entrepreneurs want to operate, and it is a responsibility ability of social entrepreneurs like yourself to actually try to develop solutions that can tap into the leverage points in those systems. So with this in mind, it is important for us to think of I always like to think of this in terms of this graph, right? On the x-axis, you have the scale, how much you can grow a social business, and on the y-axis, you have the depth of the impact. Now, it is important first to clarify what scale is, right? Because there are multiple definitions of scale, but one definition, the definition that we're usually used to up in entrepreneurship has to do with exponential scale, right? Which means how do you keep your costs to the minimum while your income is growing, right? So if we would scale linearly, this would mean that, the higher the income means that the costs grow at exactly the same proportion. Now, when we talk about exponential scale, we're trying to double the amount of income while maintaining our costs in the right way, right? So um, so I'd like to walk you through some examples of how to think about this graph, right? So if we would think of an organization that is prioritizing its impact, in depth of impact, an analogy that we have found interesting to think of those types of solutions are wells, right? When you put a well, that usually means that you have a very small contained volume of water, put in one small place, but you need to really go deep to get the water, right? So this is a little bit of what happens sometimes with organizations that are thinking a lot of in-depth impact. Their reach, it's not so big, the same as the well. You have a small contained environment where the water can be fed, but you can really go deep to it. Now, what do I mean when I talk about the depth of impact? Let me give you a couple of examples. When we talk about depth of impact, we can start by seeing this with some examples. First, let's think about this rural classroom, right? If I were to ask you guys, what are you seeing in this rural classroom? Some might say yes. This is a teacher in front of students. If we can see the picture, this might all be rural students. And if I keep asking you, what problems do you see in this image? Well, some of you might say, okay, so we need to assume that the students are walking maybe a lot of kilometers to get there because there's no transportation there. And some of you might tell me, well, one of the problem might be that there is no technology in it to help the students learn more, right? So all those are right. We need to take a step out and think about the multifactorial problematics that could be there. When we think of education, a lot of people say that education's problem come from the offer of problem. Sometimes we don't have enough teachers, or teachers are not well paid, or the classroom facilities are not good enough for children to be there. So we can think of all those, but there's also another side of the coin when we want to think of the problematics of this image. There's the demand side. A lot of these children that are walking 2 or 3 miles to get to class, or even more, sometimes they don't have enough. They might not have enough nutrition supply. So they might be coming to school with hunger, for example, right? So that's also part. And sometimes these kids are very demotivated to work there. So what I'm trying to tell you is there is always a lot. When we try to analyze a social problem, we need to think of it from all the multiple angles, all the system that surrounds a problematic. And this is important for you guys to acknowledge now that in the hackathon, you guys are going to start devising solutions around, circular economy and how to make, how to build programs, platforms, etc., that can help out the environment. you need to always take a step back and think about the multiple angles that the solution, so that you can really map the system, right? And when you learn how to map a system and understand the different potential consequences about or causes and potential consequences about that, it really leads you. It detaches you from the original problem, and you can really find leverage points. What are those points that, if well addressed, will try to solve the whole problem here, right? And I'll give you a couple of examples of some organizations that are trying to do this. For example, um, before that, before going to specific examples, I want to show you this other example. Look, I was once on an airplane flying down to Southeast Mexico, and I had a great conversation with a doctor that was sitting right beside me. And this is an amazing story. I heard a super interesting story that was super insightful. It turns out that in Southeast Mexico, there's a lot of children that are born with cleft lip. I don't know if you guys are familiar with cleft lip. As you can see in the picture, it's this condition where the lip is a little bit broken, and for some reason in Southeast Mexico, this is extremely common. The average newborns, if you take the average newborns from all other places from Mexico compared to Southeast Mexico, the proportion of children that are born with this is much more higher. But then he told me a story. He says, Jose, there are a lot of philanthropic groups that come from all over the world. Medics Without Borders, and a lot of organizations of doctors out there that say, we want to go to the Mexican Southeast to try to provide massive operations to all these children that have cleft lip, right? So they go, and sometimes in their progress, in their impact reports, they say, we have made 1,500 operations of children with cleft lip. But what sometimes they don't realize, that the cleft lip is not a physical condition. It's a condition that affects the brain of the children. When a child is born with this, he starts talking in a specific way, in a manner that the brain thinks that that is the right way of speaking. So that means that if you want to help a children that has cleft lip to really regain their language ability, you need to invite him to have like a 2-year or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how many months, but they need to go to language therapy, because by the moment they start talking, their brain has already gotten used to speaking a little bit weird, because they have this condition. So my point is, sometimes if we don't think about the systems, we might be doing aesthetically fixing a problem, but we're not fixing the problem in depth. And what I want to challenge you in the next hackathon is for you guys to think in in-depth ways of fixing the problem, not just making aesthetic interventions into a problem, but really try to think through what are the language therapies that you need to onboard when you're trying to solve your problem. Now, one story of an amazing entrepreneur and a really good friend of mine, Sofia from here from Mexico. She started thinking a lot about all these things while she was working with low income women artisans in Mexico. Now, what she figured out is, how can we help these low income women artisans that are producing beautiful garments and are producing beautiful products? How can we get their products to being sold in specific places so that we can generate an extra income? While generating an extra income for these families, we are putting their products out there. We are selling them to a lot of hotels. So she really had an way of thinking on how to help these families generate extra income by her intermediating and selling their products in hotels in different places. Now, what she found out is, she created a foundation on her company which the mission of the foundation was to try to get all these women, low income indigenous artisans to learn some digital capabilities. So she started taking some computers and teaching them what would it take for them to really for them to being able to sell their own products online, right? So she was thinking of market access. But the in-depth part of this was that she was really thinking of generating capabilities to them, right? So meaning there could be a possibility where they could really scale their products, but what was being done in scale is that she was not only worried of selling their products, but on training them to actually being able to do it by themselves. And when you leave a capability there, sometimes your impact is much deeper than just buying from them and selling elsewhere. So this is a little bit of what I want you guys to think about as you design your solutions. Now, let's think of the contrast. If you see this picture of the Washington Memorial, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen, we can think of solutions that are much more driven to scale as a very extended body of water, but which is very shallow, right? That means we want to cover as many market as possible, but we don't really care about being in depth to it. No, so I'll give you an example about this. We had an amazing entrepreneur that we trained a couple of years back, which was called Bexy, and they are selling their pitch and their impact speech is super beautiful because what they're in Mexico, there's a lot of population that are unbanked. They have no access to loans, right? So what Bex is trying to do, their mission is we want to give young kids between 18 and 19, 20 years old their first credit card, right? Without them having to prove to us that they have all this credit history so that we can give you a credit card. Now, what they're trying to build is they call it athletic financials, right? We're going to give you one credit card with maybe $100, but we're going to teach you how to use this card, that you need to use this card and pay it, use this card and pay it. And as you become better on paying your loans, then the algorithm can open it up for $150 and then to $200, etc. So this was their access, but their main mission was still, let's put as many credit cards out there. So once again, coming to this analogy, they are providing impact, but they're providing impact in a very broad way, right? Their business model is trying to sell as many credit cards as possible, while at the same time trying to help these young people become much more credit and build the credit history with them, right? Now, this is two interesting things, because when we think about scale and impact, we need to think that on the one hand you're thinking on clients, and on the other side you're thinking of beneficiaries. Clients on Bexy, because they, their business model still relies on having a lot of people with a credit card, and impact and beneficiaries, because for Sophie on Tequiti, helping them, she's trying to build, it's really an educational platform, trying to build capacities that will stay for life with these beneficiaries, right? Now, how can we think of this? What I want to challenge you over the course of the next hackathon is to think about the quadrant in the top right? It is not only about being a well or being a very shallow extended body of water that you can reach millions of clients, right? How do we think of our companies as pools, right? Where you can have both an extended and an outreach of a lot of hundreds of users, while at the same time you're taking the right care of the right impact and the right depth of the impact. So I want to, and there's different models, right? There are some models where you have users that are also beneficiaries and are your clients, and also models where you have beneficiaries plus clients. Now, I want to tell you the story about Someone Somewhere. Someone Somewhere it's another Mexican company. Now they are exporting to around 30 countries. This is a small company that I had the privilege of getting to know when we were very young. when I was very young and they were very young as well. And 10 years after, they have really become a global business that's doing amazing things. Their mission is also to help um, low income indigenous artisans throughout Mexico to sell their garments abroad in different, much more sophisticated markets. With this, they can help the families also gain higher income, but at the same time, they can also train them and teach them to access markets by themselves. Now, this is a little bit of what they do, right? If you go to their website, which I am highly recommending you guys, someonesomewhere.org, you can really find amazing pieces of design, right? They sell, for example, these T-shirts, and these T-shirts, the little bag pocket in front, it's made up of different, very beautiful designs. You have some backpacks, so they are really working on teaching the low-income women artisans how to create much more appealing designs so that they can market them out there, right? And they can really prove how much money that they are selling with a higher markup as a company, but that markup is actually being translated into paying much better the artisan. I don't remember exactly the statistics, but I think they were able to pay at least 3 times or 4 times more than what usually these low income women artisans are doing. So if you go to the website, and what's more beautiful, in each of these garments, they have this is why the brand is called Someone Somewhere. In each of these garments, they have in the little tag on the back, you can see someone, the name of the artisan, Juan Jose, for example, and somewhere, the place or the community where this artisan is working. So Oaxaca or Yucatan, which are some cities from Southeast Mexico, right? So it is a very, very beautiful company. But now, the way they have tried to become very big pools is by really trying to measure what matters. And as you can see in this graph, they are not only measuring the income before the artisan works with someone somewhere and after. And as you can see there, after the monthly income of these artisans grow, but they are also focusing on other important aspects. Remember, they're thinking of it as a system, and they're trying to measure how much the support relationships grow for these low income artisans before and after working for them. Now, it is important to say that in some of these contexts where there's a lot of context where a lot of these indigenous women sometimes are even suffering from domestic violence, sadly, because of our Mexican machista culture sometimes. They have realized that the fact that the way they set up the work, usually women are set up in teams of 5, for example, and they need to deliver on a certain amount of garment pieces as a team. The fact that they have set it up in this way, they started realizing that for women, this became a very important trait of the part of the job, because they felt much more comfortable having a support relationship with their teammates. So they started measuring these things in a way that they could really understand what the true impact is, not only on providing access, but also, giving them a space for them to feel much more comfortable within their communities with their own teams of working. So this is a company that for me is really taking care of both aspects. They are trying to scale on the one hand, go to the right side of the graph, but at the same time, they are really looking to think of the stuff that's important for women, so that in order for their own work to already have other types of important impact aspects in what they do. And what we've seen after the course of these years working with a lot of entrepreneurs really thinking around this table is that you need to try to build impact baked into your business model as a way for it to really become these pull models that can have both impact and scale. Um, I'm gonna finish here, but I just want to ask you this question before you guys engage into the hackathon, as you'll be designing amazing products and services around the circular economy. Is what type of organization do you want to design around the product of service or service that you work on? And or doing an all impact organization which might have a lower outreach is as valuable or something that just scales and have a shallow impact. It all depends on the type of organization that you are trying to devise, right? Now, a last thing I would say is that whether you decide to devise a well company or a shallow body of water company or a pool company that might have both, always think of the system. And when you think of the system, you need to ask yourself, what are the unintended consequences of me as an organization doing the either of the three quadrant models, right? And as you ask these tough questions, then you can really have much more clarity on the type of organization that you can decide to design. I'm gonna stop right here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I don't know if we have some time for Q&A. Let me know if there are any further questions on this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Medina. How was that for you, sir? How's that experience?
It's great. Thank you so much. I'm
That
always
was
get very highly fueled about talking about these issues. I am so this is an energizing experience.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got a few questions here that are online. Looking at obviously scaling. They say in the context, obviously, of social entrepreneurship, what strategies have proven effective for scaling your business while maintaining a positive social and environmental impact? And also, what challenges have you encountered in your scaling process?
Sure. I mean, what strategies? I think I'm going to go for the obvious one, which is how do you incorporate digital from the design, right? And that means
Yeah,
a lot of you working in circular economy or that will be working on circular economy. How do you think of how do you understand your business model exactly? Where are the where is it that the business is, right? And then how do you try to leverage from all the different technologies that are out there, digital technologies that can help you leverage in a better way so that you can streamline your processes better. So I would say that one thing I'm seeing is digital has to be an enabler for you guys. Now that doesn't mean that we don't need to ask these same questions that I was just saying by my last slide, right? What are
yeah,
the unintended consequences of using digital in a way for our own business model? So that could also lead to the risks, right?
yeah,
If you use digital in a way where you're not bridging the digital divide, right? So let me give you give you an example. Sometimes we tend to think that for serving isolated communities. I was recently in Central America, and we were talking about making an app for people from a very isolated community, and we were just thinking, hey, how do we, if we want to bridge the digital divide, that doesn't mean that we need to put more digital into the problem, right? Because a lot of these people are not digitally literate, right? So you need to think about these things whenever you decide if your model has to use digital as a component. How are you really bridging the digital divide? Because there are millions of people that are still don't have the capabilities, and this is where you might choose for a model where you go a little bit in depth, and you want to do an educational component that can leave some capabilities installed there for the people before or as you present your solution. What challenges have I encountered the biggest challenge for me is always building teams, right? This has nothing to do with digital. Digital is just becomes a component, but as some of you will be designing products and services throughout the challenge in the next hours. having complementary teams is always the biggest challenge, right? How do you find the right team to join you in this journey? And we used to have a mentor that used to tell us that you always find two types of teams, right? Either the teams that know how to sell or teams that know how to do, right? And as you guys are embarking into this design experience, make sure that you bring in together to your teams complementary people, people that are very heavy on selling, but also people that are very technical, that are able to do the job. And this has been, in my experience, as I scaled I co-founded an organization that has scaled to 6 different countries. This is always one of the biggest challenges. How are you thinking of bringing in people together to your team that can both sell and have the technical capacities to deliver on the products and service that you want to provide?
Wow, that was powerful, Mr. Medina. Now I've got one more question here that says, how do collaborations and partnerships contribute to both the growth and social impact of your business? And can you also share some of your examples of successful collaborations that have enhanced your ability to create positive change at scaling?
Sure. I mean, I would say that it is really a tough question, because it depends a lot on the type of business that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example within the framework of the examples I've given in my presentation. At some point where this organization, someone somewhere, that they used to call themselves Flor de Mayo, which is what they started as an NGO. They had an agreement with DHL, right, with the logistics company, so that because they figured out that what was being the most the cost that was higher in their model was logistics, right? So leveraging on their social impact and saying, they went up to DHL and these big logistic companies, and they told them, hey, we are really trying to change the lives of these women. How can we collaborate? So they made an agreement where, it was a brand agreement where DHL was willing to help them. Frankly, don't quote me on this, because I'm not sure if it was DHL, but it was one of these big companies, right? But they had an agreement where DHL was willing to put the logistics up there to help these women, and this would help them being able to lower the cost a little bit of the logistics, so that benefit could be transferred to the income that they would be giving to the women, right? So this is one collaborations that I've seen in this, circular economy, working with low-income artisan space. We've also leveraging from some of the brands that already have the markets. That's also, and I'm also going to say, since I'm collaborating with UNDP, that trying to work with governments is always an interesting approach. Collaboration goes, governments sometimes have the capacity to scale through public policy. So if you're always by design, always thinking, how can we eventually take this to a public policy so that we can work along with governments to provide better service with their citizens, this is always an interesting approach of collaborations for scaling that is always worth exploring.
Well, Mr. Medina, thank you so much for this beautiful session. I really hope you had an amazing time. Obviously, for us and those that are watching, we really appreciate your time, giving us so much knowledge and wisdom, obviously, in this line of work. We really do appreciate you, sir. And on behalf of the Startup Business Festival team, we'd like to wish you an amazing rest of your journey, in business. Just keep growing, keep being fruitful, and just keep expanding, all right?
Thank you so much, Carabo, and congratulations to you for being able to convene a community of people that are thinking on the lines of circular economy and devising solutions for that. So I really, I am very excited about this initiative, and I hope that it all goes very well and that a lot of interesting solutions come out of this.
Thank you so much, sir. We really do appreciate your words, and obviously, I'm going to take it for the rest of the team and just to give off your message. Thank you so much, sir. All right, man. So this was the webinar and the innovation sprints, looking at the building up of what's about to happen today at 5 p.m., where we officially kick off the hackathon, Circular Economy Hackathon, hashtag CEHack 2023, also hashtag Circular Innovators. See you guys today at 5 p.m. We're also going to be going on tomorrow tomorrow being a Saturday. Obviously, tomorrow will be live at Saibono, corner of Miriam Makeba and Helen Joseph right here in Newtown. And obviously on Sunday, where we'll be having the closing ceremony and the awards. Man, I cannot wait. It's about to be an amazing weekend, man. Love you so much and have an amazing rest of the weekend. Peace.